This van rolls up and steals all our paint, just loads it in the van quickly and dips out. And we can see they're cops, but they're not like in full like guns and everything. They were just like blue uniforms, just loading up, stealing our paint. And we're all running down the street like, hey, that's our paint. What are you doing, bro? What the hell's going on?
Give me the paint, give me the chalk, give me the urban artist talk. Conversations from the heart, from the start we set apart. Art a la carte, now check it.
Hey, beautiful art community. Thank you for watching another episode. Be sure to subscribe to Urban Artist Talk. Your subscription will help us to bring on more guests and make sure that we fund this whole project. So thank you for watching another episode, and we look forward to your support.
All right. Yes. We're back again with another episode. I'm your host, Andre Jamora, and our guest today is one that needs no introduction, but I feel like does need an introduction. You know, so many people have seen his work around the Bay, even beyond. So many people have worked with him. But today we're going to really get to know the man behind the scenes and behind the brush. So let me take no more time than introducing no other than Sorrel Ranos.
Yes, thank you. It's
What's
great
up,
to
Ren?
be here.
How
You
you
said
doing?
my name perfectly.
Man,
Yeah.
you know, it took plenty of practice because I always, it's just Rel. You know, when we're in the
Yeah.
streets, it's just Rel.
That's right. That's
So
what
I'm
people
glad
call
to
me.
have you on this platform and giving people a chance to even, hear the full name and get to know you not only as like the guy behind the scenes, but you're a brilliant artist as well too, man.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. It's been a long time coming for sure, and it feels good to step into that space as an individual artist myself over the last 5-7 years after spending 15 years producing working with other artists, running a gallery, doing all the back end stuff, and to kind of merge those two worlds, I'm in a good place right now. It feels really good. Feels
Man,
natural.
It's like the evolution of it, yeah, it's so natural. But even as you go into the story, it almost sounds like that ludicrous story to where it's like, you're working at the radio station, you playing everybody else's hits, and you see what it takes to make a hit, you see what it takes to make a record, and you're like,
I could do that.
I could do that. So,
Yeah.
Kudos to you for being able to, help other artists, but also be able to figure it out yourself, because this art thing, it's the duality, of natural ability, but then also honing and mastering your craft. So it's like, and you got to have both when you want to work at certain levels. Right?
Yeah, 100%. And both my parents are artists, so it's been a lifelong journey for me too. I say that jokingly about I could do that. Because I've been doing it,
Right.
my whole life. I've been drawing, I've been painting, so it's not anything new. I didn't just jump in the game because I thought I could do it. I think it was more just like getting the confidence and working with other artists and kind of understanding the business, and then wanting to apply my tastes and my own style to it, and letting that style brew within me for a long time, and not. Not really like cheat the game. I
Yeah.
feel like I put in so many years like working with other people and learning and understanding and kind of apprenticing. And so I feel like I really put that time in to where when I was ready to kind of promote my own work, I felt like I had a history to stand on.
Yeah.
Like I'd been there and I'd done that. And so it didn't feel unnatural, you know? Yeah, it felt right.
No, that's amazing because, my partner is also from an artist background where her mother's an artist, and, just amazing how, coming from a non-art, I come from a military background, so it was like my father got into framing, but, like people weren't like creating
Right.
art on an everyday basis. And really, it's just amazing to think of how when it's embedded in your everyday life, like even for my children now, like, art is just a part of their life.
Right.
How that benefits young people. So can you speak to just like having both parents be an artist and knowing when you wanted to become an artist? Or if it was just always something that, just kind of like, yeah, this is life.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely just life. I mean, I think for me, the path was kind of unique. You know, my dad is an architect. You know, he's kind of a known Berkeley Bay Area architect for being this evolutionary nature-based architect. So he's always been an illustrator, a painter. You know, so growing up, it was just drawing all the time, and I would just sit and draw with him, and that was just something that we did, you know, together. And then my mom was a modern dancer, and so she was always putting dances together in the living room. She launched her own school, which was successful in Canada. And so just being around that creative element, I think, was always, you know, influenced me a great deal to just, you know, want to be creative. And I think the biggest thing I took away from both of them was just wanting to be an entrepreneur. You know, like live my own craft, and not like, both of them found a way to support themselves and support their families through their work, their creative output. And I don't think I realized that for a long time, but that was the thing that I think influenced me the most growing up in that household. But my path was kind of different because, you know, they had me pretty young. You know, my dad was like early 20s. And so I think I didn't really see it. Like, they're both like, you know, decently successful now, but throughout my whole life they were not. You know, and so I think I grew up in a fairly like poor, kind of struggling artist kind of environment. You know, so when I became a young man, I didn't have ambitions to be an artist. I was like, I want to make money.
Yeah.
I want to get out of this, you know, kind of funky existence and not deal with all that. Like, so I was on like a kind of money path. And my grandfather on my dad's side, my Chinese grandfather, he was a very stable, you know, traditional Chinese guy, you know, like work hard, invest, you know, buy stocks, you know, build up wealth long term. You know, he had kind of a very functional money mind, and so he wasn't a creative person at all. And so I think I got some of that from my grandpa. And so when I kind of got out there into the world, I was really just on a like money business path for many years, and it took it was a long curve to come back to art, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we want to get into all that whole story, because it's kind of a long story, but ultimately I just, you know, I had some successes early in life in finance and in business, and kind of, you know, went through that whole arc and really didn't get back into art until many years later when I launched my first gallery. And that's really what brought me back, and that was the gallery in downtown Oakland.
What was the name of the gallery?
It was called, well, it went through some iterations. The very first one was called Famous Four Colors.
Okay.
And that's because we were a print shop, and we got this grant from the city. We were screen printing, so we were printing, you know, T-shirts and posters, and we were collabing with artists, and so that kind of got me going. And then we were like, oh man, let's do this gallery like attached to the print shop, and we could just have shows and, you know, have fun with it. And so we called it Famous Four Colors, and the logo was like the CMYK, you know, like kind of dripping down. And so it was kind of a play on screen printing, you know. And then it became Lucky Vive Gallery, and then finally Athen B. So it went through a couple iterations with different partners and stuff. And then Athen B Gallery was kind of the one that really kind of took off for me. And we were, you know, primarily showing like street artists, post-graffiti artists, you know, urban contemporary, whatever, you know, however you want to classify it. And that's kind of what got me into like street art productions, murals, you know, just like kind of like hustling the art, you know, because the gallery world is a hard world especially when you're showing like street art stuff. And in Oakland, it's not like, you know, a big collector base. Like, it wasn't making any money, you know.
Canvas paintings don't jump off the walls.
Right. So, but we started doing like murals and productions, and that kind of built up its own kind of life and business model on its own. And that's kind of what pulled me into that world. And I started just assisting people. And, you know, I knew I could draw, I knew I could paint, but I didn't have the confidence to go paint a mural. But I'm leading this production from an organizational standpoint. And I'm like, I'll assist you. You know what I mean? Like, we got the wall, we got the money, like, let me paint it with you, you know? And so that just kind of took off for me. And I was blessed to paint productions with a lot of really high caliber artists, you know, because our gallery name had grown, and we were doing good shows and works with artists
Who were
like
some of the first big artists that you worked with
like
at the
Zio
gallery?
Ziegler. You know, we did the one on Howden Street. Assisted on that. You know, I learned a lot from him. Pastel, an artist from Argentina, international artist, a very well-known muralist. Did a couple big murals with him. Jet Martinez, you know, kind of local hero. Josh Mays, you know, all those, you know. So really, like, you know, high caliber Oakland artists and high caliber like international artists, and just working with those people. And, you know, when you do a mural, it's like, you know, it's like going to war with somebody. You know, it's like being in the trenches. Like you in there, you in the grind, you working 16-hour days, you covered in paint, you eating burritos on the top of a lift. You know, I mean, you smoking weed on the top of the swing stage. You know, like all that. You know, it's like a war bond. You know, it's like you're really with that person. So I have so many stories of kind of just like going through those processes with people and learning from them and building that bond and seeing how they execute. And then just that kind of building in me, like, I could do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm painting a world-class artist mural right next to him doing exactly what he's doing. So I know I could do it. You know what I mean? Because I just did it. You know?
So speaking of the trenches, because it's so funny you say that, when you're in the lift or on the swing stage and it's 2 or, you know, 3 of you, God forbid, it is like you are in battle.
Right.
You know,
You in the bunker.
and that is your only ally and partner. If this thing falls,
Right.
you fall with them together. If this mural looks great, you guys look great together. You know, like all of it, you know. So, and then the closeness as well too, especially with the small boxes. Like,
Right.
there's been times where, you know, me and another artist are like, you know, it's intimate. You know, like you're brushing each other's belly, you're trying to grab a brush, and you have to be comfortable with one another in that space.
Yeah.
You have any funny lift or swing stage trench stories?
Man, I just pick a mural. I got them. I mean, there's funny stories. With
You got one for the Joshua Mays one on Broadway?
Josh's was pretty smooth, actually. I mean,
He's a smooth guy. He's pretty
I think the
calm.
funniest thing with Josh was just that, like, he's afraid of heights. You know, and so the very first day we went up in the swing stage, you know, he was really like just holding on tight. It was like kind of panicking a bit, but we got used to it, you know. But yeah, all of them got funny stories. I mean, the Musée one, you know, at the Square building, that one had a couple crazy ones where me and Ernest Doty, you know, we're working on that one, assistant Musée, and when we were projecting, the swing stage broke down, and we were stuck up there for like 3 hours in the middle of the night. We're projecting that night.
Damn.
And the swing stage would go up, but it wouldn't go down. Like the switches broke, and so we're up there. It's 2 a.m.
How
we're
high?
sitting up there. We're you know, mid wall, right? And we're just up there, you know, and we're just like, damn.
So that's,
and
hold on, for those that don't know, that's already like 3 stories up on the top of the roof, and then you're probably
yeah, we're like 6, 7 stories.
6
up.
stories
Yeah,
up.
Yeah,
so
we're
they're up.
there.
When he
Yeah.
says up there, he's a
Yeah.
muralist, so he's like, yeah, up there.
No,
now we're talking
yeah.
about like 70, 80 feet up off the ground.
Yeah, we're high up there. And then eventually we just had to take it. We just said, you know what? We're just going to go up to the roof and try to get out of here. We're going to be stuck here all night. So we just went all the way to the top. But the swing stage is attached to davit arms, so it doesn't really go all the way to the top. You know, it goes like pretty much to the top, but we had to like climb out of it up over the roof, which was kind of sketchy, and then find our way into the building. And we set off the alarms, basically breaking into the building, and then had to run down the stairs and get up out of there. And when we got out to the street, we seen like hella security and stuff like running down the street to go into the building to see what, you know, had gone on. So it was just a funny experience, like being stuck up on the swing stage and stuff like that. But yeah, each one got them, you know.
Yeah, each one has a story, because I mean, it's just so many components when doing a mural. It's not just paint here in the comfort of your own home and a canvas.
Right.
Like, you know, it's the electronics of the swing stage. It's keys for, you know, this, you know, lift, and, you know, it's the supplies, it's the paints, it's having to go back down if you forgot anything, or having to go down and cross the street just to even get a good perspective.
Take a look at
and
it,
see if that color is even the right color, you know, like, so yeah, so many stories that go into it.
Yeah, the last big one that me and Jet Martinez did down in San Jose was on swing stage, and that was like a 14-story building or something like that. It was really high. And I remember the first day we were both just like scared. You know, like we were just like, why are we risking our lives to like paint this thing? Like, what are we doing? You know,
14
we
feet
had
is
that
high.
moment, like we were just like, what the hell are we doing?
Are you an artist struggling to sell your artwork? I know the feeling. I've been there, so much so that I decided to publish a book, The Art of Articulation. This book will help you not only navigate the art world, but give you the vocabulary to step into a room with confidence so you can sell your artwork. Pick up this book on Amazon today.
And but you know, there's a thing with that. It's like overcoming the fear, you know, and you get comfortable. And then at the end, when we were done with the project, it was way more of a celebratory thing between us, not just for painting another mural, because we'd done a gang of murals together, but it was like, you know, it was like an overcoming a fear thing, and that felt really good. Like this was actually a really like daunting challenge, a mental challenge. And then when we got through it, it was like, man, we did that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we faced that fear and we overcame it, and it came out great. And that felt really good, you know? So there's times like that where it's like, it's not even about the painting. It's just like overcoming this really difficult challenge. Because like, you know, every mural has like all these different challenges, and there's always these big problems. And that one, like the problem was just a fear of kind of like being up there and it being just that high and that crazy. And but that felt really good. You know, it was really rewarding to like conquer that, you know?
I'm sure. I feel like, you know, with every mural, but like especially the ones where you have to overcome fear of heights or, you know, fear of, you know, pleasing people for, you know, clients. Because I feel like with each project, especially when you're talking about anything over like 3 stories high, you got to get your legs, you know, whether it's a lift or a swing stage. You got to like go up 1 or 2 times, maybe even 3 times before you actually really get comfortable with being in that environment. I remember when we were working on Steph Curry one, we had to do, you know, go up a few times just so that people would get used to the swing.
Yeah.
Because like painting with a little sway, you got to like, you know.
Yeah, the wind is a real thing. When you're up in a big lift or a swing stage, like it actually blows you around and moves you, and you're like, oh, like it's not just stable, you know, like you're actually bouncing around, and that could be a trip for sure.
And I can only imagine being 14 stories up, like you have like 2, maybe 3 cables that are holding, you know, and they're thick cables, but you're like looking at it and you're like, this is the only thing holding me up here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other people have trusted it. I guess it works.
I guess I'm a trusted. Yeah.
And I don't look down for the first couple of days.
I'm always looking down. I'm like, damn, that's far.
I can't do it. I can't do it. There's a few things I wanted to touch upon. I don't think we actually gave a proper introduction to, you know, ABG and what you actually do as the director, founder.
Yeah. ABG Art Group is my company. I'm the founder and director, along with my partners, Trent Thompson, Erica Enriquez. We're a full service art production company. We specialize in public art and murals, and also in, you know, I'd say community development and different kind of like art activation strategies. I'm also the cultural strategist in government for the city of Oakland for public art. And in that role, just helping train artists and advising the city on how to recruit more local talent for their public art projects. And so, yeah, we've grown a lot in doing murals, but larger public art projects with developers and sculptures and reliefs, and now have a pretty robust kind of like civics arm to what we do as well. We're working with the city of Emeryville, developing their whole cultural district, the Rotten City Cultural District, and in that role, as a company, we're developing websites and maps and branding and exhibitions and all types of stuff for the city. So it's a really multifaceted company. You know, we specialize in murals and public art, but there's a lot of different things that we do. And both me and Trent have our own individual art practices as well, and are actively, you know, getting projects on our own and doing stuff, and then often, you know, bring that back into the company as well. So it's been great. You know, we've been on a roll. You know, and it's all been working. It's a labor of love, It's a lot of work, as you know. I mean, BAMP is a similar organization, and it's challenging. You know, there's always something. I think that's the life of an entrepreneur, though. You know, like you don't get all the time off and all the things that, you know, kind of more traditional workers get, but you get a lot of reward and personal reward out of it. But I think you have to work harder, and that's something that a lot of people don't understand. Like I know a lot of my ex-wife's cousins, they would say stuff like that to me all the time. Like they'd be like, "Oh man, I want to do my own thing, so like you, so I don't have to work as much." And I'm like,
it doesn't work like that.
It's not. It's the opposite. Actually, you work way harder because you don't ever get to stop working. You know?
I think that is one of the misleading, but it's one of the lures into working for yourself, is you telling yourself, oh man, I'm gonna work for myself so I don't have to work for anybody, number one, but I don't have to work as hard.
Right.
Is kind of like what you tell yourself, or
Right.
what you might even, I remember somewhat believing that when I was like,
Right.
you know what, I can sleep in when I want to, make my own hours, which you can, but when you're working for yourself, you realize, one, you still have a schedule to keep, and then two, you know, like, you want to represent yourself well.
Right.
You know, you want to represent yourself just as well as any other organization. So what does that mean? You got to be timely. You got to, you know, work just as hard, if not harder. You got to make sure you meet deadlines, and if that means staying up all night the night before, you know,
All of
you
that.
can complain if you want to.
Right. Right.
Shit still got to get done.
Well, and I think what a lot of people don't realize is that when you're kind of your own boss and an entrepreneur or whatever, the success of the business you're trying to do, a lot of it comes back to your own discipline.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's like whether or not you are going to execute, like you said, get up on time, do the things that you got to do. And if you're not doing those things well, then the business can be it's all on you, right?
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, it sounds good, like, oh yeah, I'm working for myself, da, da, da. But if you don't have like a high level of self-discipline and self-regulation, and also the ability to take a step back, like I think, and self-analyze and be objective, because I think a lot of people get lost in their idea, you know, like, oh, I got this great idea, and they just riding with it no matter what. And it's like, so, like I've had to pivot 4, 5, 6 times in my life.
I love the way
and
you pivot.
Change directions
Yeah.
to figure things out. And you got to be able to take a step back and be like, this ain't working. Like, because I know people that, you know, had little T-shirt lines or, you know, whatever, you know, restaurants and just random ideas that they just rode into the ground because they wouldn't adapt or change or evaluate themselves effectively, or they didn't have the discipline. I mean, in a lot of ways, my father's kind of like that, you know, like he's a very creative, you know, revolutionary kind of guy, but he doesn't have a good ability to take a step back and self-analyze what his mistakes were and how to correct
especially as an
those.
artist. It's, you know, you have the business mentality, you know, which was smart to even go into, you know, like the business of art before even fully diving in as an artist.
Right.
But I feel like as an artist, especially when you're young, you just dive in.
Right.
You just, you know, like it's just, you stay up all night creating. You're not really having any organizing skills that you're like working on, and we're going to speak to this in a little bit, but
Right.
I feel like you just dive in and you just ride it till the wheels fall off is
Right.
like the motto. You know, it's like, I'm gonna be an artist, I'm gonna be a dancer, I'm gonna be this,
Right.
but you know, like you said, you have to be able to evaluate and adapt. And you know, I've seen you, and you know, just I don't even know how long, you know, maybe just shy of 10 years in the time that we've known each other.
Yeah.
I've seen you pivot and adapt several times to where I'm like, oh, wait, what does Sorrel do? Is he, wait, no, is he wait, he does sculpt. Wait, hold on, let me see. Which to me is smart. It's, you know, it's, one is survival, but then two, it's being able to adapt in the face of change.
Evolve.
And evolve.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and I the way you evolve, like even now, seeing you sit on like boards and, you know, head of commissions and
Right.
really like you said, adding that civic, because I feel like the evolution, you know, of course, you know, there's blueprints for it, but you know, like we all have to find it ourselves, and the sooner you can appreciate what it is that you're worth, but then also develop and grow and add towards that, the more you'll enjoy the process and just being able, of course, there's always headaches and heartaches, but, being able to speak to, just being able to change in the face of adversity, or, if these paintings aren't selling, even for me, it's like, let me go become an art teacher, let me teach a couple classes, still stay in the art world, but, these paintings ain't selling right now. All right, you know what? My murals aren't working individually. Let me see how, forming an organization so that it can be a bigger. So I feel like your evolution to where you are now in the civics, civic duty that you're performing, to where it's like not just about your art, but it's about, community beautification in a sense, and how we all engage in spaces.
Right. That's new. That's new for us. Yeah. That's been a new thing. I mean, I for a long time, I didn't really want to go down that road. I was just like, I want to produce work. I wasn't even really into like having like a celebration event after the project was done. I was just like, whatever. And I always bigged up people like yourself and Hassan and people that were like more focused on community engagement. And I was always like, oh man, that's like, I wish I had the energy for that. You know what I mean? To organize people and bring people out and to celebrate the work more. And I always felt kind of guilty that I didn't do that. But the role with the city and the different things that we're doing now has kind of brought me more into that kind of community building, political arena. And that's been good for me. It's been good for our company's growth, and it's been good for me to kind of, like, I always engage that way. I mean, you see me out. I'm definitely like, for the people and want to be out and doing stuff, but I didn't really want the responsibility of like organizing it,
Yeah.
But when we started kind of getting that role on a professional level, it was like, oh, this is like, we're good at this. You know what I mean? Like I can do this and it can be effective.
Yeah.
And now it's opened up a whole nother kind of arm of what we do. So that's part of, like you said, adapting, pivoting, learning what works, what doesn't, not being afraid to walk away when something doesn't work, and just, having the confidence to go after things when the opportunity presented itself.
Right.
Like this Emeryville thing, I mean, we would have never really even thought about trying to do that job had I not done the cultural strategist work for the city of Oakland. So it's like one thing leads to another.
Definitely.
You get comfortable doing one thing and then you're like, oh, we could expand on that and try it in this different arena. And fear is a hell of a thing. I think like just not being afraid. You get a little experience and it quiets the fear, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna go after that. I can do that. And just overcoming those challenges over and over in my life and overcoming those fears has been a big asset for me. I mean, I feel like I'm naturally not too fearful, which has been a great asset and a great liability in my life, because it's burned me sometimes too, just being like I could do it, But yeah, I mean, I think if you want to be an artist and you want to have success in the art business, there's a level of you can't be afraid. You got to try. And trying and doing will lead to more successes and more doing and more doors will open. You know. Yeah.
So as you spoke about it, I was like laughing because I'm like, you can't be fearful. We were talking about it, when you got here, and it wasn't the first time that we met. No, we had already, I remember the first time. Do you remember the first time?
We met on the river, right?
Yeah.
That's the first time we met.
You want to tell that story?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, when I was talking about my journey to art, a part of my journey was I was just selling hella weed for hella years. I was a big weed broker in the Bay, and that eventually led to me buying a farm up in Mendocino and growing weed for many years, like 12 seasons, and had a lot of ups and downs with that. Being a farmer that's a whole nother podcast. But we
whole
talk about
nother
that
podcast, because I had a farm up in Fort Bragg, which was too far.
You know the deal. And a good friend of mine, Ryan, he bought the farm from me, and he was a big supporter of the arts.
Shout out to Ryan. He had a couple of murals that we did up there.
Yeah, and Dre knew Ryan, and I was coming up to visit the farm. We had just kind of finalized our deal, and Ryan was like, "Yo, we at the river. Come meet us down there." And I pulled up on the river spot, and there's Dre and Ryan, rolling up a joint, and that was the first time we met. And he was like, "Oh, you guys got to know each other, da da da." And you had just done the Bay Area mural project or something down in Jack London, right?
was
and
the
you were
festival.
just launching, you were just launching BAMP.
I was just launching BAMP,
yeah.
but I got to do a mural down at the Bay Area Mural Festival, and was
Right.
like, yeah, man, I want to start this organization.
Right.
And it was so funny because
What's going on, good people? Andre Jamora here, and as the Executive Director of the Bay Area Mural Program, I want to tell you about Chroma Paint. Chroma is our go-to brand, and we want to make sure it's your go-to brand too. Visit them at their website at chromaonline.com.
I think I knew that you ran the gallery, but I didn't know. So at the time, I just knew you as a gallery owner, and that's why I spoke to just even seeing you transform, pivot, really, show the world your many talents, because I feel like they've always been there, just people didn't know exactly all the different facets of, Sorrel. But I remember knowing you as a gallery owner, and when I was telling you, he's in the arts, so he'll understand. I want to do this mural organization, and I want to, get muralists together. And my ignorant ass didn't even realize that you had already worked with some of the, top-notch muralists. So it was a little naive, me just, spitballing my idea of this whole Bay Area mural program.
It was good, yeah.
I was speaking my truth, but it was looking back, I was like, damn. I'm just sitting there telling this guy who's already a master muralist, yeah, man, I'm gonna start this organization. And he's just like, oh.
Yeah, but you know what? But you did that. You know what I mean? It wasn't naive. You took that energy and you launched BAMP, and you've had a lot of successes with it, and you did exactly what you told me you was going to do. So props to you. I mean, you didn't miss a beat. You know what I mean? And I remember that I gave you my business card, and it was the Athens B Gallery card. I remember that. Yeah. And so, I was a gallery at that time. I mean, that's when everything, that was I think 2016, 2017. Mm-hmm. And that's when everything really changed for me, where I left the gallery and started ABG. So we've had kind of similar paths in terms of the timing that we launched our organizations and the things that we've done and
both
the ups and downs.
Marijuana farming prior
came from farming.
having to try and support the life of an artist back in, I mean, it's still, tough to make it as an artist, but back then selling herb on the street was an option. Now you up against dispensaries. Good luck, fellas.
I mean, it really literally funded my life for many years, supported my children, really supported my gallery. So shout out to cannabis for being the lifeblood for me the financial lifeblood for me for many years. But,
yes, sir.
I mean, I bought a lot of works out of my gallery with weed money.
Yeah,
if
man.
If it wasn't for that, I think the gallery would have been.
Listen, weed money brought me to California. It's why I came to California, was just to farm.
Right.
Coming from Philadelphia, it's the Philadelphia Mural Arts Program, was working with them. So muraling was cool, but I was like, I want to do something different.
Yeah.
And I was already, getting herb from California. I was like, man.
That's where it's at.
Forget the middleman, man. Cut him out right now.
Right.
And came out to Fort Bragg, Mendocino. Matter of fact, shout out to I-Grade, the VI, the Virgin Island reggae production. Basically, Tippy and I-Grade called me to basically sell my artwork on a reggae tour. That was my introduction to California.
Oh, tight.
The reggae tour introduced me to, cannabis industry, took me down to the Bay, because we were on tour the whole California, and I was like, LA is all right. Northern Cali's cool, but still a little racist.
Yeah, it's a little rednecky up there, yeah.
Oakland was the only thing that felt like home. But then I was down and I was like, but this ain't where the farm's at. So I had to move up north to really submerge myself in the. So we've had a lot of similar experiences just, with our art careers. So it's crazy.
No, I know. That is crazy. Yeah, it's a funny path. Yeah.
But back to not being fearful as an artist.
Yeah.
Our next major encounter, before we had ever worked together, did any murals together, we were down, I think Asan had organized the Black Lives Matter. It was prior to the pandemic. It was right before the pandemic was about to jump off.
It was the George Floyd thing.
George Floyd
got
civil
killed.
unrest.
Yeah.
They called us to do Black Lives Matter downtown Oakland.
Yeah, on 15th Street.
We were outlining the Black Lives Matter the night before, because we had over 200 some volunteers, maybe even more, that were coming out the next day to help us paint the Black Lives Matter. Right. You want to speak about that night?
Sure. Yeah, I'll tell the story. It's a legendary art story between me and Dre. So we was down there, the whole 15th Street bring it, the mic down a little bit. I'm a little loud. Oh, okay.
You gotta get that pretty face.
Got you. Yeah, look at my face. The whole, we were doing Black Lives Matter across the whole 15th Street from Webster to Broadway, I think. It was or Webster
3
to
blocks,
Franklin.
yeah.
It was Webster to Broadway. And we was down there outlining it. I think they had done it in D.C. There was one other city
D.C.
that
was
did
the
it.
first
Yeah,
place to
D.C.
do
did it, and then we were second. And so
Second,
we were
yeah.
doing big, bright yellow, Black Lives Matter across the whole street. So we was down there outlining it. It was like me, you, I remember Tim was there, San was down there,
Yeah.
Business Splash Gang.
Splash
homie,
Gang
I
was
can't remember
there.
his name, but I know his IGN. It was a few. It was like 6 or 8 of us or whatever. And we're out there chalking and figuring it out. And this white van, unmarked van, rolls up. We're down near Webster, and all our paint is up kind of near Franklin Broadway. This van rolls up and steals all our paint, just loads it in the van quickly and dips out. And we can see they're cops, but they're not like in full like guns and everything. They were just like blue uniforms, just loading up, stealing our paint. And we're all running down the street like, hey, that's our paint. What are you doing, man? What the hell's going on? And I remember Splash came home. He had his camera out. He was like, the police done robbed us. I'm sorry. He said something hella funny like that. But anyway, we're running after them like our paint. And then Dre just hopped in his car and was like, I'm gonna go after them. And I was like, yeah, I can't remember how that happened, but anyway, I hopped in the car with Dre. And me and Dre just took off, and we was following them down Broadway, and they was going down to the police station at 6th Street, 7th Street down there. And we was following them. Dre started filming, and we're just like, man, they stole our paint. We going after them, da-da-da. And they pulled into the police station, into the garage. And I remember you were like, I ain't pulling in there. So we pulled over outside. And I just hopped out and ran up on them. And I didn't quite go in the garage, but they started coming out the van. And I met them kind of at the entrance to the garage. And I just threw every, name I could at them of all my city contacts. I was, oh, man, we doing this is sponsored by the city of Kristen Zaremba and the mayor. And, I just started bullshitting. But I had done a lot of legit murals and
For
work.
all
And I
these
knew
people,
people in cultural affairs. And I knew people, so I had some names to throw out there. And I was just like, this is a legitimate, project. I gave him my business card. I was like, you guys just stole our paint, this is a sponsored thing, call whoever you need to call, but this ain't right. And basically just convinced them to give us our paint back, and they did.
I always assumed that he called the mayor's office.
He called somebody, because Kristen actually did hit me up about it like 2 days later. She was like, oh, I heard you had a run-in with the cops and da-da-da. Kristen Zaremba is the public art manager for the city of Oakland. And she really had nothing to do with it, and I shouldn't have put her name out there like that. But I just had to throw whatever names I could that sounded official to try to get our paint back. But it was a beautiful thing, and I remember you were filming, and they were all bringing the paint out, gallon by gallon, like a line of cops putting it back in your
Well, the
truck.
funny thing
it was like a walk of shame.
It
Like
was
we
the
were just
walk of
walking there
shame.
filming them like, yeah, give us our shit back,
Well, the funny thing is like just the amount of confidence that we had, because I remember my heart pounding. That's when I started recording.
Right.
Because I'm looking back at even when I saw the video posted on Oak Central. I was
Right.
like, how was I driving, recording? Like it was a lot going on,
Right.
chasing the police because the police would run a red light. We ran a red light.
Right.
They pulled up to the garage, and like you said, like I wasn't going in the garage.
Right.
They
I didn't want to get stuck in there.
because they went in and they pulled the garage
Right,
down.
the
I was
door
just like,
started coming
nah,
down.
we don't want to be stuck in a precinct all night.
Right.
But when the Sarge came out, he walked out with his chest out and very confident, like we weren't going to get our stuff back.
Right.
And then when you started talking to him, I was like, for me, it sounded legit, even though I was like, we got permission from the mayor?
I made it sound good, didn't I?
You made it sound great. To where when he called the mayor's office, that was the funny part. That was the climax, because I'm sitting there like, all right, we need to go because anything longer is going to end us up in prison. But when he called the mayor's office, just seeing the look on his face and
He
the
did call
expression.
somebody, huh?
He called somebody
yeah.
right then and there because he
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
you're not getting your paints back. Hold,
Yeah.
Let me.
Yeah.
And like he was so confident and just like, nah, you're not getting. And the look of scowl that went from, huh? Yeah, they're trying to paint up the city. Yeah, what?
Right.
Oh. And just watching his expression change, I'm like, possible? Is there a chance? But I'm still thinking he's going to get off the phone and just be like,
Just be
man,
like, get
fuck
out of
them,
here.
get
Yeah,
out of here.
yeah.
He got off the phone and was like, guys, opened up the
that
gate.
shit back.
And that's when the police did the walk of shame. And I remember recording, and I'm like, they gonna arrest me just for recording this? But fuck it, we here now.
That's a beautiful thing, though, man. I take pride in that moment. I mean, for the police to steal our paint for a very politically active piece, and then for us to go get it back, as Oakland, muralists, to just go out there and just have the boldness to get it. I'm like, that was great, man. That was beautiful. I mean, it was a moment in Oakland art.
And I mean, not only for Oakland art, but also even just for me and you, because I think that was the first time that we had actually
worked on a thing
worked together.
Huh?
I think that night was first. No, we smoked up at the river.
Right.
But then that night, was the first time that we had really just had, real conversation and interaction. Right. And I remember jumping in the car as soon as the police took off with the plane. I remember I want to get my intuition was just get in the car, because we were running down the street and I saw my car. I'm like, my car moves faster than me running. And are we going to chase them all the way to the precinct?
Are we going to chase the police?
I was like, nah, let me get in my car. And I don't even know if I was thinking to chase them, but I knew we didn't have any more paint.
Right.
But when you tapped on my window and was like, hey, I'm going with you, I think that gave me the extra I was like, right, yeah, let's do this. Let's go. And that's when I knew, I was like, you know what? I got a friend for life here. It's like, you paint with a lot of people, you travel, you do things with a lot of people, but that move right there, I was like, oh, this is more than an ally right here. This is a ride or die, because right now, if I get locked up,
I'm getting locked up with
Sorrel getting locked up with me.
Well, that's that thing, like we were saying, when you paint murals, you go to war with people, and that's one of those funny stories of we weren't actually painting, but it's just the things that happen. You know what I mean? The things that happen when you're trying to produce a piece, and that was an extreme case. But yeah, stuff like that brings people together, man. You go through stuff, and there's a bond there. We'll forever have that bond. The night that we chased down the police and got our shit
Not too many
back,
people that get to say they chased down the police, and the police were genuinely running.
Right.
That part.
They were
running.
Off.
That people don't understand. It's being behind the police is one thing. Being in the HOV lane as the police goes down and you getting behind, that's a whole. We were chasing the police and they were running. Most police, I feel like in that situation, would stop.
Right.
And turn their lights on, and get behind us, or try and flip the script.
Right.
But that's also how it gave me the confidence in knowing, oh, y'all know y'all wrong.
Right. They knew they were wrong.
They were speeding.
Van.
They were in an unmarked van, speeding, running red lights to get back to their home base. I'm like, y'all know y'all wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you weren't, you could stand on the block on your truth and be like, nah, y'all can't paint here.
Yeah, and I think the work that I had done in downtown really gave me the confidence to do that. Because when I did the
gallery is right there.
Well, the gallery was there, but also we had done some big pieces in downtown, like the United Nations piece with Zio, right? Mm-hmm. That was sponsored by the United Nations. That was a big door opener for me, and became kind of an iconic mural for the city. It was covered in the newspaper and all that stuff. So I felt like, I'm doing good work in the community on behalf of the city. I've had the mayor came and spoke at the unveiling, you know what I mean? So I was like, man, I
pay my dues, give me my paint.
We've done this, it's not like we're just some bombers bombing the street. We're people that are actively beautifying the town, and we deserve at least enough respect for you to not steal our paint.
At the very least.
Yeah, that was a crazy night, but that ended up being a great piece. Looked amazing, and a crazy moment in time with so much civil unrest going on.
Yeah, definitely a mile marker. Even since then, wow, how many pieces have we done together since then? I know our organizations,
we've
last
collabed
summer,
on a bunch.
We've collabed. I was supposed to do the piece before leaving to Mexico. I remember the timing just didn't align, but that last piece that you did with San Francisco.
Oh yeah, the other Chinatown one. Yeah, we did 2 in Frisco, Chinatown. Yep, yeah. Ashley was helping.
Yep, shout out to Ashley Cousins for working on that one.
Well, the first big one was the Wohei Win Park. That was a big collab, the Chinatown piece, which is a big moment for me, and you guys have played a very pivotal role in my art career, man. I feel like that mural, I had done some smaller ones, but that was my first monumental piece, and you guys brought that to me, and you gave me the confidence back to lead that charge, because it was a Chinese piece, but that really put me on, man.
It kind of set a spark.
Yeah, it really did, and I remember saying that in artist gala, but it's true to this day and every other day for the rest of my life that BAMP believed in me and helped me get going, and I'll always appreciate that.
No doubt,
for
man.
real.
I
Yeah.
think that's one of the great things about BAMP is being able to, or one thing that BAMP has been able to do is be able to help people give people that confidence. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Because BAMP hasn't really made any of the artists that we work with better artists.
Mm.
I mean,
Well, through
we've seen the
experience.
journey through the experience,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
But I would say just being able to have a platform to where you have confidence, when somebody else is like, hey, I
Right.
see you got something.
Right.
It gives you that extra incentive to be like,
Yeah.
maybe they see something. And I remember working with, or applying for grants with, ABG and just doing the work and just like, but I know Sorrel's a dope painter in there somewhere. He doesn't really put himself out there in the forefront on these projects as lead,
Right.
but he knows he's got the brushstroke.
Right.
And I remember it was just the perfect opportunity when the Chinatown piece came up.
Yep.
Ashley had brought it to BAMP and was just like, I want to work on this project, and I think Sorrel would be a great ally and partner to really dial in on this. And it was just like, makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm super grateful for you guys for that. And just to your philosophy, like you were just saying, like, I think you have made a lot of artists better through experience, but it's not so much that you're like, forcing anything on them. And that's one thing that I think I've always really appreciated about your organization is it's like openness. I think when I came into doing productions, I was coming from a gallery standpoint. And in the gallery, you got to be like more selective. You got to be curatorial, right? Like you can't just show anybody, because you got to keep your curation at a high level and da-da-da. And so when I first started doing productions, I kind of had that mindset, and that's why I resisted putting myself on for a long time because I was like, I'm not on that level yet. You know what I mean? But I feel like your guys' organization was always just more open to the people. Like it wasn't about like where you're at in your career or did you do this project or show at this gallery or whatever. It's like you got a style, you got energy, you're a good person. I'll work with you. Let's do something. You know what I mean? And I really appreciate that viewpoint. And that's really, allowed me to get on with you guys. And then I've kind of taken more of that approach into my production stuff as well. Like I think early on I was more like, focused on the heavy hitters and da-da-da. And now it's like, I am down for anybody.
You
it's
are
really not.
you are a heavy hitter. That's that part too.
Well, yeah, I'm not gonna say that, but I appreciate you saying it. Man.
No, man. In my book, especially the piece that you and Ashley worked on, was that the
Powell
last
Street, the new one? No, well, I just finished another one on Geary, the
man.
Sunset one. I don't even know if I showed you a picture
I
of that
don't think
one.
I've seen that one.
That one's good. That's my best work.
Well, see,
for
and then
sure,
this is the other thing too, is that like every time I'm still in just awe of your last piece, you got another one in the incubator. You're a man who, whenever I check in with you, you got 3 or 4 projects that you're, a lot of times you're too busy to even pick up the phone. So thank you for even, taking time to pick up the phone. But, like you're working on, and these aren't just little Rudy Poot jobs. These are like, high end to civic engagement projects that are meaningful.
Yeah.
And, just, I don't want to, I don't take it for granted, and I think that it's important to speak to, just how involved you are, even in times where you're not the lead artist, but just like how you just kind of like keep the ball rolling. But in my mind, you are one of the heavy hitters, man. Like if you didn't feel so when you were doing the Zio piece or the Joshua Mays piece, that might be up for debate. Yeah. But after seeing you tap in, and I also wanted to bring the conversation back to your new persona.
Yeah.
Your new persona, which I love because one, as a person that has made it a journey to get more in touch with my ancestral, lineage and just, who I am and what makes me me. I see you on that same journey.
Yeah.
And when I saw is this a new artist name?
Yeah, so Tsui is my Chinese name. And
So that is your birth given.
That was my birth given
Oh.
at birth by my grandma. That's my Chinese name. When I go see my grandma, my Chinese family, that's what they call me.
That's what they call
That's
you.
what they call me. So it's always been my name.
Got it.
But when I started doing murals and I didn't want to, I wanted to kind of have a different alias, you know. I wanted there to be a division between what I wanted to do as an artist and what I'd been known for on the production side.
Was it for more of a universal? Because there's times even as an artist, I'm like, do I want something too I don't want to get too ethnic if I'm trying to get, you know.
Well, Tsui Xiaorui is a pretty Chinese name.
It's very ethnic. That's what I'm saying. You know, it's like, that's
pretty
where.
Chinese. No, I mean, I think what I found after we did the Chinatown mural, and then I got a couple more jobs, and it was all in that vein. And so I mean, my style has a ton of Chinese influence in it, right? And so I didn't really realize there was such a demand for kind of like Chinese hybrid murals, but like I tapped into a lane that was what I was doing anyway,
Yeah.
and it just happened to kind of take off. And so it felt natural to me to just kind of be like, that's my Chinese name, like, let me just go with that. And I wanted to build up an identity outside of Sorrel, ABG,
Yeah.
and everything that I'd done on that side, because my goal really as an artist is to build up Xiaorui to really just stand on its own, because I didn't want to leverage my contacts and my relationships in the art industry to try to, you know, leapfrog anything. Like I wanted it to be an organic growth of this artist, this Chinese hybrid artist, Tsui Xiaorui, and for it to be known as that,
Yeah.
and not like, oh, Sorrel, yeah, he used to help other people and now he's stealing the jobs or whatever. You know, like, it's not like that. You know, the stuff I'm doing as Tsui Xiaorui is very specific to
It's
my
you.
culture and me and the type of work that I do. So I'm not real. I don't feel like I'm competing with anybody else just for the sake of I got the contacts or I got the
Yeah.
client or whatever. It's like I'll show a client my work as Tsui Xiaorui. I'm in the meeting as Sorrel. They don't even know who that is. You know what I mean? And if they happen to like that work, or if it's a good fit for the project, then great.
Then
But
great.
I'm showing them 5-10 different artists, you
Yeah.
know, and I'm just one of 10 now, right?
Yeah.
And so that felt right to me. So I knew I had to have a separation between the two, so that like the ABG business can just keep going on its own, and then me as an artist can keep building on its own. And those are two different things, even though they intertwine and they intersect, but they have two different identities. And that was important to me, to feel like I'd done it, you know, on its own merit, rather than me like leveraging contacts and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of people, especially the people that are listening right now, you know, having gotten to this level of success, and, you know, number one is, you know, great to even, you know, hear the experience and just know the amount of work that you put in. For anybody listening that, you know, thinks that this is just an overnight thing, like, there's, you know, so much behind the scenes that people don't see and don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Years, years and years of it. Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure. Oh, where was I going with this? God damn, I lost my train of thought. I felt it coming. I was like, okay, all right. There's a lot of different aspects I wanted to talk about, but just the cultivation of your style over the years, number one, because we got one of your pieces right here in front of us, and I feel like it lends itself to a very urban graffiti-esque style, but you also see the very Chinese influence, which, after hearing your story of, you know, just coming from your, you know, family in Canada to your family in the Bay, and then your father, who is one of the flyest men that I've met, he got a chance to come to the Oakland Artist Gala and just shut it down. I mean, handmade attire, the whole gear. I mean, just like, and his energy was just like,
He's got good creative energy.
he's got
for
good
sure,
creative
yeah.
energy. So, you know, that I can see where, you know, like, apples don't fall far from the tree. I was just kind of like, makes sense. Sorrel is, you know, and your dad has like 10 different things he has on his business card. He's like an engineer, artist, sculptor.
He does,
You know, I'm just
yeah.
like, this guy does it all.
He does a lot of things. Yeah, no, there's no doubt. Yeah, the style. I mean, the style. I think it's all been in development my whole life, you know. And I look at my artistic style as steeped in traditional Chinese expression, but totally, like twisted around to be like universal. And that's really been the story of my life. Like, my mom was in Canada, my dad was here, I was bouncing back and forth as a kid. My dad's Chinese, my mom's Italian. I wasn't American, I wasn't Canadian, I wasn't Chinese, I kind of feel like I'm just been kind of a person with no real cultural identity or patriotic identity. Like, I don't feel very patriotic to either country because I've just been bouncing around. But I mean, I've been here in the Bay since, '96. But so I feel like my artistic expression was really, I wanted it to be universal. That the Chinese culture is such a strong culture. I think it's the one thing in my life from a family standpoint that I gravitated towards as like, oh, that's my culture. You know what I mean? Even though I was living in the Bay and I was mixed, and it wasn't like I lived a traditional Chinese life, but it was the only like clear culture that I could be like, that's something. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't really say what American culture is or what Canadian culture is or whatever, you know what I mean? But I could tell you what Chinese culture is. And so I gravitated towards that. And then artistically, I wanted to infuse that, but then like bring in, make it universal in a way, and so the murals that I've been doing are like, there's Chinese stuff in it, but then there's like, flowers and abstraction and stuff. So it's like a merging of just art that anybody could love, but then also like Chinese pattern work and shapes and things. And then in my studio home, kind of art is more about this abstract calligraphy version of Chinese calligraphy that's not, because I don't read Chinese, but I love the characters and I love the calligraphy, and I study the calligraphy, and I have tons of books, and I just love the way it looks and the way it makes me feel. And so I wanted to capture the essence of that through painting without you having to read it or know what it says. Yeah. So like I do kind of an abstracted version of calligraphy that doesn't actually say anything. It's just appreciating the strokes and appreciating that it has that feel of that essence of Chinese culture, but it could be universally appreciated because that's my life, right? Yeah. It's like I love that culture, I love that calligraphy, but I don't know what it's saying. And so, the paintings are a reflection of that. It's like the essence of it, but in a universally accepted way. You could be from any culture and look at it and just feel it and appreciate it. So that's really my focus in my art career right now, to just develop that calligraphy style more and more and more, and to infuse that more into the murals I'm doing, and to just, keep moving forward as Tsui, the artist, and really just build that up.
So I was going to ask you earlier, did if you ever snuck any subliminal messages or any meanings in the writing?
No. Well, so this is an older piece. What I used to do is I would take a Chinese poem, a traditional poem, and then pull pieces of characters from that poem.
Got it.
And so that piece is reflective. You can't tell what those characters are, and that's an old traditional, that's an old style kind of cursive calligraphy. So there's an ancient poem embedded in that piece, but you can't actually read it. You know. So, but now I'm starting to just let the strokes kind of flow without it being pulled from a poem. But I do both. Like sometimes I want it to have that meaning behind it, and then sometimes I just want it to be expressive. So.
Well, we got a blank canvas here, and we always end every episode with, just letting the artist put a couple of strokes on the canvas. So we'd be super honored if you could, bless our canvas with, just some characters or some strokes of your pleasure. I got some paint. I got everything you need. But yeah, man, this has been super special just having you here in the BAMP space on the podcast, Urban Artist Talk with Sorrel.
It's great to be here, man. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is it's been a journey getting to this level of the podcast, and then also even just, of course, this art thing is always unfolding, but it's always good to just, check in with you and just see what you got going on. And like for me and for BAMP, you're like a gauge You know, like you're a check-in where I'm like, okay, what's Sorrel? Sorrel got, you know, like, you doing civic work? We're doing, okay, all right, let me see. Because, you know, you sit on the advisory committee for BAMP and just have given us tremendous, you know, advice in the past with just even approach. I just saw Eddie this morning, you know, the guys over at the Swing Stage system. So, yeah, thank you, man, for just, you know, being an ally, a friend, a brother in the arts, man.
For sure, man. I appreciate it. I mean, I think that's just a big part of my philosophy. My personal philosophy is just to share, not be a gatekeeper, not be a hoarder of information. You know, I think that, you know, it's just a universal law. The more you give, the more you get, you know. And so I always try to share what I know, share my connects, put people on, share positive energy. And the more I put out that way, the more it comes back, you know. So I'm always down to collab with you guys. I appreciate you, and I'm always here for any artist in the community, you know, that wants to talk or work, you know, together. It's nothing but love, you know.
Sell Ranos way, the man himself. Thank you, bro.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Give me the paint, give me the chalk, give me the urban artist talk. Give me the paint, give me the chalk, give me the urban artist talk.